And with that public event done, I can finally call this a quest. Well, obviously there's still one step left to do, but golly, that took way too freaking long. So I want to talk about that quest up really quickly. I say way too long. It took me an hour to do it, but I don't know if I was doing it in the most optimal way. Honestly, the hardest part was actually the second step. So first step was to just get regular kills. It wanted 700, I believe, to do that, which is not too bad, especially if you just go do a few Altar of Sorrows runs. Not so bad. Second step was mini-bosses and bosses. I actually got the most progress from that while doing public events. Strikes and Altars of Sorrow and things like that actually weren't all that conducive towards completing that. So that was pretty much the best way to go. And then the last step, which was either major bosses and or guardians, I just did like 2 Crucible matches and was able to get that pretty easily. Not to mention, ending the last episode, having finished the Scarlet Keep, was able to automatically net me 10%. Every strike boss is 10% on that step. So you either have to do 10 strikes or you need 50 guardian kills. I would just go with the guardian kills. It's a lot faster. Even if you suck at the Crucible, trust me, you just need assists. I mean, if you want to absolutely wait for like Mayhem or something to make it a bit more efficient so you can like kill people with supers or something, go ahead, but that is probably the best way to go about that. Like I said, I had the hardest time with the second step just because of the nature of the mini boss spawns and the like. All right. With all of that said, what is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you back to more Let's Play Destiny. You saw the last episode. We were continuing to work on this quest that began with the memory of Saimota. Now that it is basically all done, I have a few bounties to actually turn in before we jump on into this next step. So let me do that really quickly, just kind of work my way up. I think I've got an Eververse engram I can turn in here, probably for absolutely nothing, which that is basically what that is. The more exciting thing is whatever engram I'll be able to go and pick up from Banshee. Now, right here, Symphony of Death is honestly right where we're at. We're just going to want to, I believe, head on towards it, but I think we have to actually go down into the Hellmouth itself. Now, we're going to do that in this episode, and this is going to be the last step of this quest, which is pretty exciting because once this is all done, we're going to be getting ourselves a new exotic, which we'll get to play around with in the next episode, because the next episode is going to be very patrol area focused here on the moon, while I talk about numerous different things that we can do around the moon, as well as finally going after those region chests, which I tried to do on every location that has them. I do believe region chests were discontinued after this expansion, though, so don't get used to them from here on out. It was kind of just a thing for Vanilla Destiny that they didn't retire, and honestly, I kind of wish they hadn't, because region chests, even as dumb as they were, the thing that made them so great was whenever you jump into a new expansion, whenever Destiny releases something new, typically you end up, it becomes a huge resource drain really quickly because you're spending so much time working on leveling up and upgrading all this new gear and trying out all these new weapons that you want to try out, and so you end up spending a lot of your materials, especially if you're somebody who doesn't happen to have a lot of legendary shards on hand or glimmer or things of like that. And the region chests were actually a nice way to stay topped off at least a little bit more because of the amount of glimmer that they provided and how quickly and efficiently you could get them. So in that sense, I do think that them removing the region chests from the game was a little bit of a mistake because, I mean, they were just kind of there, and it was nice to have them. They weren't too hard to track down, but they gave that extra little boost. I think Bungie's of the mind now that so many players play this game so much that they just go, they all have legendary shards, just go buy the glimmer from Master Rahul or something like that, because you can just get 10,000 glimmer for every 10 shards you spend, and it's just a lot more efficient that way. Or is it one every one shard? I don't remember. But exchange rate aside, it's I don't know. I think that's just kind of Bungie's focus from here on out. They don't really care as much about that, but I don't know. I still liked the region chests and for what they were for. It was just a nice little extra thing to have whenever you opened up a new location, and you could honestly just save them for whenever you wanted. You didn't have to go after them immediately. You could just wait until you're like, you know, I'm really short on glimmer and everything else right now. Time to go and get a little bit more. So there we go. All right, Symphony of Death is the quest. Let's begin.
The song remains unbound. There are notes yet to steal, and bone yet to defile. Toland knows the way. His madness is your truth. Heed his warnings and know that your suffering will become your strength once the death song is yours to command.
Welcome once more to the edge of oblivion, hero. You have faced much, enough to impress the easily impressed. But the melody we seek to cage may be more than you can overcome.
Is that concern I hear in the old man's voice? Maybe his humanity isn't lost after all.
My concern extends only to all we gain to learn from what comes next. Succeed or fail, Guardian. Either way, new understandings will be gleaned from your courage.
All right, well, let's follow him. So we're heading back down into the dark once again, back down near the pyramid. And I've got a couple new weapons here.
Fire awaits. Quiet the aria before they shred your mind and rend your flesh. The song's embrace will be harsh, but remember, every note you endure will lead to the hive's undoing.
And off we go. So I got a couple new weapons here. This weapon right here is a sidearm that I picked up from my Crucible matches I was doing, the Keening. It's an alright sidearm. It is, I believe, a 3-burst. Oh no, this is just a standard one, which is pretty good. It's got ricochet rounds and alloy mag. Both are honestly really good perks. I'm actually going to probably end up going with Chambered Compensator just for that vertical recoil, although Arrowhead Break is pretty much just as good. And actually, you know, stability is not really a huge issue, so maybe I should just stick with that. Handling is actually something you really want on sidearms because of how snappy they are. Killing Wind and Multi-Kill Clip, both really good perks to have. Multi-Kill Clip especially does a lot of damage, have that stability master. Honestly, a really, really solid role for a sidearm archetype that isn't a lot of people's favorite, but I do like. And on that last Altar of Sorrow one, I got that shotgun I was talking about that I said is the best. However, I think I got quite possibly the worst possible roll you could get on this shotgun. Hipfire Grip, which I absolutely hate because why would you ever fire one of these slug frame shotguns from the hip? And Moving Target, which, I mean, this is good on like longer range weapons like snipers in like the Crucible, so you can be more accurate from a distance, but on a shotgun, no. Like, if I had literally any other roll from that thing, I would probably equip it, but it's all I have. It does some good damage, though, so I am going to actually use it. Now, we're going to be heading out into this mission. Today, the day that I'm actually recording this, I actually want to mark this special occasion, and it's actually derailed a couple of my plans here really quickly, and I probably should mention as we head into this restricted era. So, the day I'm recording this is the day that Bungie decided to fully unlock all possible standard mods for everyone in the game, whether they had purchased them from Anna or not, which means that as of right now, I no longer have to worry about these. Now, that being said, and as much as I would like to build craft, one, I don't really have any armor that is worth keeping except for maybe my arms, but even those I think leave a little bit to be desired. I mean, the stats are pretty all right, but I think I would like a little bit higher resilience on these. Either way, the rest of these, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be masterworking, nor do I have the materials to do so. So not enough energy in any of these armor pieces to even think about build crafting at the moment, but at the very least, I do have access to the more basic mods, like reloader mods and things like that. On top of that, though, once Lightfall hits, there is a very high possibility that this mod system is going to be changed a bit more, particularly in regards to the combat style mods, which means that whatever new system gets implemented is going to need a rundown that I am going to want to talk about then. I actually previously recorded a video where I already went over how the mod system works, and now I can't keep that because of Bungie's announcement, so I'm going to have to scrap that entire video and do something else. So we'll see how that works, but for the time being, combat armor mods and stuff like that, you guys are just going to be kind of left in the dark on those. At the very least, though, you are going to be able to understand how standard mods work, because that's incredibly simple. Okay, so here's the way that this mission works. So you see the green aura around me. That is the death song. Right here, we have a death singer that we need to kill as quickly as possible. This is why I have the slug shotgun, so I can take it out quickly and efficiently. You want to kill it before the timer counts down, because if it counts down all the way, you die. The death song just outright kills you. Very, very simple. And since we're in a very claustrophobic location, I figured that it would be probably a good idea to use something like a sidearm, but that shotgun's instant damage is also incredibly helpful. Now, take all that for those phantasmal fragments. Door's already open. We don't need to open it up again. Watch out for the cursed thralls. Just going to keep using this over and over as my microphone decides to dip down, and I had literally, I'm in this like weird crouching position just trying to keep it in front of my mouth right now. Why is my microphone arm doing this? I need to replace it really badly, but I won't be able to do that anytime soon, unfortunately. So yeah, this sidearm, it kind of rocks, if I could be completely honest with you. If I can actually land my, oh gosh, land my shots here. Get some healing in. There we go. One headshot ought to do it. Like, even with the worst possible roll, these shotguns are so strong that you absolutely want them whenever you're dealing with close-up enemies. The only enemies that these shotguns are not good for is bosses, like the big bosses that can use stomp damage on you. You just don't want to use shotguns on those guys in general. But even then, there are a couple exceptions, like the Templar in Vault of Glass Raid, and there's some others that you're allowed to get pretty darn close to, at least within range of being able to use these. But for the most part, whenever you need to kill majors, lots and lots of high-level enemies that aren't quite the big bosses, pinpoint slug shotguns are the way to go. Trust me on that. All right, so there's another one. Get it with the headshot. Look at how much damage that does. Absolutely insane. Almost all of its health in one shot on the head. They're so good. And then this sidearm is great because of the fact that it is giving me arc damage.
I came to the moon with Eris and other lost warriors, not to end the nightmares, but to meet them, understand them. From that understanding, I expected to conquer their horrors and safeguard our past, present, and future. But the Hive are not simply waking terror. They are a dark mirror, a reflection of all we fear to face in ourselves.
That is an important point that Toland makes, by the way. I don't know if he's going to say more. It doesn't look like it. So the Hive are... They're a race that you're going to want to pay a lot, like really close attention to. I personally think...
The last skull we need is just ahead.
All right, we can do this thing. So I personally believe, and I'm going to hit everything there with that attack. That's going to help me out a lot as I kill you with my super. Wait, is that it? Did I really kill her that fast? There's no way. Was that it? Okay, so the way that... wow, that was an accident. I forgot how much stronger we are for at this point in time, as we were, or compared to how we previously were in Shadowkeep. Jeez.
A new chorus to serenade your enemies with suffering. The final instrument is yours. Take the Death Singer's skull to Eris. Complete the weapon.
Okay, so the way that fight is supposed to work is once you do enough damage to the Death Singer, her shield is going to change, and she's either going to move up here or down in that room below, and just kind of teleport around the map. She'll start a Death Song. You have to break her shield, deal enough damage to her. It'll interrupt the Death Song. She'll teleport to a new location, and you basically just have to keep her at bay so that the Death Song can't count down enough to kill you in time. But I apparently just completely wiped the floor with her with that one super. It is the most high damage super in the game at the moment, at least without exotics in tow. So, oops, that was an accident. Now, the point that I was trying to make as we head on out of here, might as well talk about this really quickly. We'll grab the weapon and then we'll end the episode. But the point I was trying to make is the Hive are incredibly important. I think they are... I know in the early days of Destiny, the emphasis was more so placed on the Fallen for being kind of the most important race. I mean, Destiny 1 really framed... they kind of framed at least at first, they framed the Fallen as the mirrors to us, and the Vex as like the true bad guys, and then the Hive were just kind of there, and so were the Cabal. As time went on throughout Destiny 1, the Hive became sort of more prominent, but for the most part, they still kind of stayed the same. And then eventually the Cabal were made the bad guys at the beginning of Destiny 2. The Hive are the most important. They are absolutely the most important villains and race that we have to deal with in this game because of what they represent. You have to understand, the Fallen are basically supposed to be... I mean, they are fallen. That's what they are. They are a race that was once blessed by the light, much like humanity is in this game. But it was all taken from them, and now they're just kind of a sad, pathetic remnant of themselves, constantly trying to chase down the glory that they once had. That is effectively what their whole race is all about. The Hive are much more different because rather than just let themselves be abandoned by the light, and rather than just succumb to what they did, they basically took the absolute worst possible route that you could take with desperation, the most evil possible logical conclusion that you could come to preserve your own species' future, essentially. Because that's really what it comes down to, is survival. The Hive went the absolute logical extreme and did everything they could to make sure that their species never died. And it turned them into monsters. It turned them into just total, pure evil as a result. The Vex are a manifestation of evil only in the sense that they are incredibly selfish. The Hive are more than that. They're not only selfish, they're almost contemptuous of everything else around. And I guess you could also argue that the Vex are as well, but they're more like algorithmically that way. The Hive essentially sold their souls to the devil. That's really what they did. They straight up said, we will be as evil as we need to be to continue the existence of our race. And they have only fulfilled that promise time and time and time and time and time again over the course of hundreds of thousands of years. And that's what makes them, I think, so scary and why they're so important as really the main villains of the story thus far, of this light saga that we are currently still in.
The deadly chorus of the Death Singer's call has been stolen and bound to your growing arsenal. Once more, you have proven yourself worthy to stand against the night. Let the death song protect you as it rends those who once cheered its wicked power.
It is possible you have done a terrible thing in caging such power, but terrible things have forced your hand. Unleash your fury across the system until all who consider themselves the fever dreams of our eternal torment understand. You, when pushed, are the only nightmare worth fearing. You have crafted a weapon of corruption and doom, powered by the stolen might of the Hive's wicked song. Unleash its fury upon your enemies, become death. This is Deathbringer, and we'll talk about that whole situation going on right there in a second. This is Deathbringer. Deathbringer is a very interesting exotic. It is also now our most powerful exotic. I'm actually going to rally at this flag so that I can take it out to Archer's Line and I can demonstrate this thing to you so you understand what Deathbringer is all about. It is a rocket launcher, but it is not a conventional rocket launcher. In fact, in a lot of ways, I would compare it to something like Dragon's Breath from Destiny 1 in how it behaves, although it's quite the opposite. Remember how Dragon's Breath was more of a napalm launcher? Well, Deathbringer is more of a... Well, I might as well just demonstrate it. That is Deathbringer. Deathbringer, instead of being fired directly at enemies or being fired directly at the ground, needs to be fired above groups of enemies. You hold down your shot, and I'll see if I can demonstrate it from here. Hold it down, and once it reaches right where you want it to, you let go of R2, and then all of the Seekers rain down and kill everything in their path. There is also a catalyst that makes these Seekers a lot stronger, which, while I would say it's not better necessarily for taking care of clusters of enemies, it makes the weapon much more effective at doing a lot of damage to a single target, which Deathbringer is actually quite good at. Now, the weakness to Deathbringer is that firing it a lot is really hard. You cannot get shots off with Deathbringer nearly as efficiently and as quickly as you can with basically any other rocket launcher in the game. But each shot you do get off packs quite possibly the biggest punch in the game. So for DPS, Deathbringer is kind of eh. But for total single target damage and like per shot damage, Deathbringer is absolutely insane. One of the best in the entire game, if not the outright best. You're definitely going to want to go for the catalyst for this thing if you can get it, but on its own, Deathbringer is a pretty cool weapon. It also has some pretty interesting ornaments. My personal favorite is Dragonbone. Peacebringer's all right, although I think I still actually like the default look more than Peacebringer, if we could take a look at that. But Dragonbone is just awesome, and I love that it makes the Seeker a straight-up eye. That is so freaking cool. This whole Ahamkara look to it is absolutely lovely. But guys, that is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play Destiny. Thank you all so very much for watching. In the next episode, we are going to continue moving around the moon, taking care of various stuff as we investigate that whole situation that was going on with Eris. She had a whole bunch of stuff in her inventory we're going to look at. I also want to demonstrate a few things that you can come in contact with as you move around the moon, and all sorts of things that you can encounter. Although it's not really a ton, but there's a couple things worth talking about that are special to the moon before we get into anything else. So guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this episode very much, and I will see you all in the next one.